Derrida is talking about the who or the what. Is it what we forgive or is it who we forgive? Do you think? I'm thinking specifically of the South African case as well because I grew up there.
In where?
In South Africa. And I remember 1994. I was young, but I remember it. I remember when the queues for voting, for the first time people could vote. And I remember the fear as well from the white community, which was, this is going to be a complete and utter disaster, there's going to be violence and war everywhere, and there wasn't any of that. Now it wasn't, I'm not saying that there wasn't a struggle before that, but the fact that there was no revenge taken, you know, it was almost as if we kind of all went, okay, this is it now. It was like, how do I explain it? When the Truth and Reconciliation Commission started as well, and affirmative action and everything as well, I remember my own father, who's also a product of, you know, his generation. He was Irish English, and him saying, why should I have to say sorry for what my ancestors did? And I think as a white South African, it is something we feel is sorry. Even like, I mean, I was born in 1983, so it certainly didn't have anything to do with the politics of it. But I've inherited that feeling of being a white South African, having to be sorry for it, having to be sorry for what my ancestors did. And especially when you think about the Zimbabwean case now, where the land is being taken from white farmers. And I mean, there's a revenge. There's a revenge happening there. And it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal and violent. People are being raped and killed left, right and centre to get their land. The land, and you wouldn't mind, but the land isn't going to the people at all. It's going to Mugabe's cronies. You know? I wonder, is it the what or the who we should forgive? You know, or is it both?
I should say, I'm going to be speaking a great deal about this tomorrow.
Okay.
The role of Ubuntu in the Xhosa Zulu language, Bota in the Tswana language, which is not about Christian forgiveness at all, but which may, in Baobal's terms, understand why there was acceptance of the new dispensation and no outright revenge. I say no outright revenge because South Africa has the highest crime rate now in the world by 5 times. I mean, I lived in South Africa for 2.5 years. In fact, I just got back and I still work in South Africa. So I think, you know, if part of your question I'd like to leave to tomorrow, but it's all about reparations and Ubuntu, which is a very different notion than forgiveness or anything that Derrida argued, but certainly takes into account what is owed to the dead. And there's no Xhosa Zulu intellectual heritages are deeply embedded in what is owed to the dead. So I just kind of want to leave you with a story, because I know we have to go to dinner shortly, which I think shows all the complexities of the relationship to the dead. I'm part of a group called Kulamani, which plays as one of its roles the excavation of the dead who've been disappeared. It's very important in the negotiations around Bloody Sunday. I was at a site where 3 15-year-old boys had been discovered. The perpetrator was there. The mothers were there. They're all in their late 70s now. The boys were killed when they were 15. They were identifiable because they were in a car after being tortured and tied and set on fire, and they crouched down so that each boy had some pubic hairs that had survived, and they were identified by their pubic hairs. I'm just going to describe what has happened, because this is the kind of thing that Derrida was very good at, suspending for a moment his need to know the truth, which is when the bodies, you couldn't even see that there was a body. There was a woman who spends her life excavating the bodies for proper burial, which was all the women wanted at that point. When one of the bodies was identified as the son of one of the women who was there, his spirit jumped into the mother's body and said, you know, Mommy, this is all in Kosa, Mommy, you have come for me finally. And the perpetrator fainted. And the mother, of course, spoke to the dead son and said, I've been looking for you for 33 years, and I'm here now with you. When the perpetrator returned, he actually took the mothers to where the dead bodies were. I asked the mothers, do you forgive him? And he said, Mike, how can we forgive him? But we accept that he's a human being. And I think that, and then asked the perpetrator to speak in Kosa to the dead and to say that he was profoundly guilty for having murdered them. And he did speak a little Kosa, and he did do it with tears streaming down his face. Now, who made the demand? The mother of the dead made the demand to the perpetrator, so there's an asymmetry there. It was one of the most traumatic things I've ever been through. I still have dreams about this. That, I think, may be an example of the complex negotiations that went on in South Africa around Ubuntu. Because all three of the mothers said it was because of Ubuntu that they could accept this man as a human being, but not if he did not acknowledge his guilt. Now, I taught in South Africa for many years, and you may or may not like what I'm going to say tomorrow, that every white in South Africa, like every white in the United States, is a beneficiary of racism. So one of the things that we have to get straight is trying to think about what reparations might mean. But in this case, it was the importance of the acknowledgement of guilt to even get that fortunately living gentleman who still had a chance to be back into the community of the human.
Maybe we just have one last question, because I'm aware it's getting late now and there's taking books.
I've got to teach again tomorrow morning.
I think this has been a really terrific conversation.
Do we give him a chance?
Yeah, let's have it.
I'll be quick. Regarding the difficulty of distinguishing between Hitler's ghost and a Jew's ghost, shouldn't we say that we should respond to the calling of the dead precisely because Hitler is not dead? Because you know, Hitler is being responded by neo-Nazism. So, you know, that's why we have to be faithful to those who are really dead. Because if you say that both Hitler and the Jew are dead, we're basically, I think, reproducing simply the medical definition of death. You know, they are both physically dead, but you know, ethically or structurally, are they really both dead? You know.
Brilliant answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to quote you.
Okay.
Okay, let's thank